All right, hello. Um, I'm looking at a game here. The Houston Texans versus the Steelers. Okay, just happened this evening. I kind of half watched it with my daughter. It wasn't a very good game, really, but anyway, there's a story with this game, and again, it actually ties back with. It does tie back into the theme of the clock tower in Back to the Future, and there's some really interesting number jumps with it, and so I thought, well, I better do a video about it because it's fairly interesting. So where to begin with this one? A precursor to this is, as I look at these teams more, right, all these teams that are going through to the next round of the Super Bowl, we've got past the wild card stage now, and we are at the divisional whatever stage this is. But these teams here, as I look more into these teams, there's more and more connections to more and more little stories and more little connections, and definitely more connections to Back to the Future with a lot of these teams, especially to the DeLorean. We've had all these connections to the clock tower with Charlie Kirk recently, and I don't know what else to say other than every time I look at a team now, I keep finding even more and more crazy little connections. Okay, we're going to go through them. All right, where to start with this one? So this game. So the first thing to note about this game is basically what happened in the game is that the defensive team, the defensive, whatever you call it, line, the guys that play defense for the Texans won the game for them, basically. Okay, because it wasn't going right with much more of the with the rest of the game. They basically kept them in the game and basically won it for them. There really wasn't much going right for the Steelers at all. But anyway, again, this game was stuck on 6-7, same as the game the other day, whatever game that was. With the 49ers, which was stuck on 6-7 as well. Again, maybe a reference back to Christian McCaffrey, okay, the 6-7. But also, let me show you this in the chart of Lorraine. If you come across, and we're looking at Lucas numbers here, 2, 9, and 2, 9 is this number right here is balancing these two numbers together here, 11 and 18. It's the perfect combination. And notice that it's in the 7 column. 2-9 is in the 7 column. 729 is the white wedding between Charles and Diana. Charles and the Temple of Diana. Okay, the Temple of Diana is the clock tower in Back to the Future. Okay, Charles and Diana. Notice, look, here's Prince Charles's, King Charles's now birthday right there. Okay. Anyway, 6-7 is right here. It's a 2-9 reference. 6 or 7-6. Sorry, I keep saying 6-7 because that stupid song. Okay. Also note that down here in this, this is really what I call the phi row here. Okay. Just because of how it starts and it references back to phi somewhat. Notice that 6-7, we're moving towards a point here. This number 13 will become relevant again in a minute. We've had the number 13, it's so relevant, right? Because we're looking at 213 for our start, our big day for the Hoover Dam or whatever. And that's coming up. And if you notice, the next number on here is 2. So 13 and 2, see, so 6-7 is, we're moving this way, and this 20 here is actually the doorway on the clock tower. If I was to draw that in, let's do that real quick. because we'll need that in a minute anyway. So if I just draw the clock tower in, okay, not very well, and then that's the clock, the 10:04 on the clock there with the 1-4 numerology, and then this is the doorway, okay, here, 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 and here is the pillars, the stylized, the 55 here coming down for the lightning strike. We had that in that Chargers Patriots game. Basically the game was over at 1:55 on the clock is when they turned the ball over, okay, and that ended the game essentially. This lightning strike comes down and it goes via the line, yeah, and look at the 9/11 there. It comes over to this side of the street, and on the street we convert this 0 here into a 9 because in the Fibonacci cycle that 0 actually would be a 9. Okay, so there's our Western Auto sign. The 11 is right here, okay, for the fire trails. Yeah, pretty interesting, huh? And of course, you know, people like oh, I don't know. Let's not get too getting too carried away here. Let's just, okay. So you know, and you can see, well, you know, just for instance, though, you can see what interesting numbers here, like 923. Yeah, 923 is in here, and then you've got 235 as well that's in here. All these numbers tie back in with certain bits and pieces that we're familiar with. Okay, but there's the clock tower in there. Alright, let's just go back to so let me get back onto this decode, and then the clock tower will become really relevant when I show you how that works in just a second. The Houston Texans, okay, so they won it on defense, and so it just made me think of a film, okay, because there is a certain player on this team as well that was, I don't know if he scored, I don't know if he, I think he might have scored, or he was playing well anyway. Number 13 again, back with the number 13 again, and I'm going to show you this, the player that was playing pretty good, and also we're gonna talk about this defense, okay, this defense connection. So the defense connection for me, let's see where I've got it in here, is back to a film called Falling Down, okay, and Michael Douglas is in this film, and so the first thing we've talked about this film with Charlie Kirk before. One important thing to remember about Michael Douglas is his middle name is Kirk, yeah, after his father, okay, Kirk Douglas, okay. So this birthday, 9/25/44, super duper important. I had looked at some stuff with him for around close to this date actually, because he was palindromic with some numbers on this particular date, and we'll go to that in just a second. But we've had these numbers popping up quite a bit lately. We've talked about it, like his wife, actually, Catherine Zeta-Jones, has also got the exact same, well, I say exact same birthday, but it's whatever year, 69, okay, so she's the 25th of September, so that's very unusual. Well, I think marginally unusual, it's interesting for sure. And then other people like Christopher Reeve, he has that birthday, so Superman, and yada yada yada, okay. But anyway, so we have this Kirk reference with him, and this film, as I've shown before, has a reference to both 9/11 and the destruction of the Hoover Dam in the same scene where they blow up, where actually Michael blows up it's a roadworks thing. They're doing roadworks, and so there is a reference to the Hoover Dam getting blown in that scene. Okay, and there's a reference back to 9/11 in that scene as well. A couple of references back to 9/11 as well in that scene. Now, so this guy is a defense worker. His number plate actually says defends on it, okay? And they make a big point of the defends, okay? So, the game was about defense. This is about defense. This has a Kirk reference. This has a 9/11 and a Hoover Dam reference in the film, okay? Note how many minutes long this film is. 112, yeah? 112. The date of this game was on 112, okay? Today's date, actually. It's about to change, but the 12th of January, okay? So again, pretty interesting already. And then we go back to the film. This 26th of February 93. I think I've got it in here somewhere. Let's run it out. Oh no, I don't. No, that's no 20. I thought I had it in here. Maybe I don't. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. No, that's a different one. That's something different. 26th of Feb. And that is something different. Okay, I haven't run that out, so we probably could if we. Well, let's not worry about it right now. If it's something interesting, I'll put it in the comments. Anyway, so what I wanted to show you with this though is the connection with Michael Douglas now, okay, and also this connection to Charlie Kirk and this character. So this is the number 13 for the Houston Texans, okay, and he is again another Christian, and it is Kirk, okay, Kirk. Now what is super duper interesting about this, not only the number 13, but this birthday, November the 18th, 96. November the 18th, 96. Let's go back to the clock tower and let me show you something. November the 18th. Let's do a different color. November the 18th is right here, yeah? Remember what I was just saying is that 29 is that perfect combination of 11 and 18, yeah? If you add up 11 and 18, it comes to 29. And if you reduce 11, it's a 2. And if you reduce 18, it's a 9. So individually reduced is a 2, 9, and added together it's 29. So it's the perfect combination of these two numbers, right? This is the center of Lucas numbers here. These two are the balancing right here. Let's put a little cross right here. This is the balancing point between those two numbers there. Okay, this is essentially the number 29 in here. Okay, right? So that is very important. Now let's look at again. His birthday is 11/18. So it has this. Now remember, the Kirk is the church. Remember, this is the reference with the clock tower. This clock tower is the temple. It's the church. Okay. So this is very important. You know, look where Charles's birthday is, 11/14, and again, with this numerology on here, you have Charlie Kirk's birthday in here as well. Okay. So very, very important stuff. Now let me show you some other number jumps to do with. Let's do the number jump with. This is with. This is Michael Douglas's birthday through to the game day. look at this, 81 years, 111 days. So we have 11 and 8-1 or 1-8 numerology there. We have the same numerology for 11-18. Not only that, but if we go back to, we click off of this, you'll see that he was palindromic just a few days earlier than this. Okay, this is just interesting. Okay, that's just marginally interesting as well, with the 29 and the 92 and the 6 and the 9. Just an interesting looking number. Okay, but yeah, where was we? What was I doing here? Let's click on. So that I thought was worth, you know, noting. Okay, I thought that was super duper interesting. Now let's do Charlie Kirk through to a specific date, and the specific date is 2/13. Okay, which is our end date. That 155-day jump in the dollar bill takes us to 2/13. From 9/11 is 155 days through to 2/13. So we just saw the 155 referenced in the game with the Chargers. Okay, the Chargers Patriots game. Remember I said Patriots are representing the DeLorean here. Got the red fire trails, the silver skin. Okay, that the DeLorean has, the hot and the cold. Yeah, the 5-pointed star is the metaphysical. Okay, this is, you know, a super good reference for the DeLorean, really. And then they got the Chargers, the Charger, the thing that charges the DeLorean. Okay, and so the Chargers lost to what? To charge up the DeLorean ready for the jump home. Okay, look at the score. Oh yeah, and by the way, yeah, that 155 is that number jump that comes down as the lightning bolt on the clock tower. Yeah, the lightning bolt here, the charge, is the 155 jump. Okay, from 9/11 to what? Well, we're over to this side of the street here, but you can see it. 2/13 is here. Okay, and we're referencing through the beginning and end numbers of the Lucas cycle. The beginning number is 2 and the end number in the cycle is 8 for the Super Bowl. Okay, hopefully you can follow along with what I'm saying here, but it does get a bit complicated. The score here, check this out. This is absolutely mental, right? So we're talking about the Temple of Charles and Diana and the White Wedding. Those two things come together on 7/29. So the number 29, and obviously there was a big deal really about in some of the symbolism with the Erica Kirk music video, with her, you know, with the wedding references in there. So this idea to the wedding again with her. If we look at the 316 numerology here, let me show you this for the what I want to show you. I want to show you her jump. Look at her number jump now to. So this is her number jump to 2/13. 136, the same as that score, 13/6. Yeah. Look at Charlie Kirk's number jump, his birthday through to 2/13. 11811. Palindromic, absolutely mental. Is there anything interesting about that? I never did click it to see. Not really. I don't think. No. But what is interesting is just the number itself. So this is a reflective number, which is again representative of balance. 118. That is super duper important. I'll show you something with 118 as well in a minute that's super important to the 49ers. So we'll get to. Hopefully I won't forget, but I don't want to. I've got to get off that one image to show you it. So the score to do with that game, this whole thing here, absolutely mental. Let me show you something else that's bloody completely mental, right? this is, so let's look at the Houston Texans. October the 6th, 99 is when they were founded, right? So let's put that in and do a number jump through to Super Bowl. October 26th, 99, 2826, 9623. This is interesting with just, remember at the start there with the 923 and flipping the 6 and the 9, yada yada yada, and 623 is actually really interesting as well, to do with Diana and the temple, and also to do with Madonna and Who's That Girl. But without getting too sidetracked, let's click this and see what it is. You can't write it. 1188. Okay. Now, I know that isn't 181 or 1118, but 11, and this is what's important about 11 and 88 is in the Fibonacci. So in this particular cycle, when you convert this over from the sequence into the cycle, each one of these sequences, okay, or cycles, has a set of twins that balance each other, right? And so the beginning and end of the Fibonacci cycle is 911, okay, and the numbers in there that balance each other, the twins that balance each other, are 88 and 11, okay. So this is why these numbers become very interesting here. And you know, you look down the clock tower, and one of these pillars here, you know, this is the totals at the bottom in green, is 88, and you've got the 55 as well, because it happens in what year do they go back to? 1955. It's at the top of the clock tower here. It's at the total. You know, here's the doorway, 20. I think door equals 20 in gematria or something like that. You know, or 25, something like that. Anyway, or gate. You know, gateway or gate or something. I don't know. But super duper interesting. Anyway, note that there is a, you know, a slight reference to that here with the 136, and then, you know, tonight's game with the 3-6 reference as well. So we had 136 in the other game, and now we have 3-6, 30 to 6. So just interesting stuff. What else have I got to say about this? I'm getting a bit cluttered here now. So that was interesting, and I've got one more absolutely mental. Was there something with his birthday? No, just that his birthday was that, but let's look at, oh yeah, so we'll look at his birthday through to 213, and the numbers that pop up here, 10680, so we've got 168 in here, which is, again, a reference back to Madonna, or the golden ratio. Her birthday numbers are basically the golden ratio numbers, and so again, it's just interesting. You know, if something happens to Madonna, it's game on. You know, 29 years, 88 days. That is pretty darned interesting as well. That's the 88 day jump from 1118. Yeah, Mickey Mouse's birthday. I think that's it. A couple of things I wanted to note on thinking about some of these teams that are in here. The Bills also have connection to the train. They use the train horn sound in their stadium, you know, to get people riled up. Again, I just wanted to reference the gull wing doors with the Seahawks. You know, this connection to the Seahawk, to the seagull. Okay, and then what else did I have? I didn't really want to talk about Eric Kirk. So, but interesting with the Kirk reference is this church reference. I think that was it. Well, let's go to the games that we're looking at. So it's fascinating because, like, oh, let me show you that connection with 8 and the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, we want to go back to this. Let's get off of this one. I need this chart. Now, this row is not normally in here, it's just scribbled in purple. This is the 4 row. There's a lot of connections to Donald Trump in this row. But note that, you know, within the bounds of the clock tower here, we've got a lot of interesting numbers. If we draw the clock tower back down again, like this, you'll notice that, and here's the doorway, you'll notice that with the doorway, or between the clock face here, is the number 17. We've been seeing a ton of 17s, and obviously 17 references the temples right here. 28, super duper important for the Super Bowl. Okay, that's the Super Bowl date. Now with the 4-9, okay, we're looking at this 4 reference here, and we look at the 9 reference, and the 49 references 118. So this is big, you know, because 118 is basically a reference back to right here. Okay, it's an abbreviation of these numbers right here. So that's super important as well. I'm trying to think, was there anything else I really wanted to mention about this? No, but you know, we've seen several. These are the new totals when you put in this 4 row. We've seen several little references to this number, 116. Okay, so yeah, just there's lots of little ways of connecting these teams back to certain interesting numbers, and also back to references in the in Back to the Future, like the Seahawks, just with the gull wings, but even just with Seattle and the Space Needle, if you ever listen to JL, and then if you look at the Space Needle, it does look, there is a reference when Marty makes the jump back in 1955, there's like an upside down Space Needle there towards the end of the electric line, and then there's also the reference with the Space Needle is, if you look at the top of the Space Needle, it looks very similar to the top of the plutonium chamber on the DeLorean. Okay, so there's a little reference there. I don't know, here's Chicago, and look at the chi with Chicago, the X. Yeah, if you go to the Greek, yeah, that is X, and obviously then that ties in with a whole bunch of stuff. It ties in with Route 66. Okay, it ties in with I'm trying to think if that's where that ends in Falling Down. I don't think it's not Santa Monica Pier though. I don't think it is. I think it might be Venice. I'm not sure, but whatever. But that is, you know, the ending of Falling Down on the pier. That is kind of interesting with where Route 66 essentially ends as well. There's similarities there. Okay. What else have we got? You know, so there's, you know, just interesting. We've got the Rams with the ram and the train. And by the way, you know, the San Francisco 49ers, we've got the CNC with McCaffrey reference with the DeLorean. You know, we've got the Golden Gate Bridge reference. We've got the home team reference. We also had the black outfit, the black kit that they wore when they lost to the Seahawks, which is like in Back to the Future, the train going over the cliff and then sending the time machine home. Oh dear. Again, New England, we've got the time machine reference. Look at Houston as well, because very similar colors. And again, let me just reference back, and then we'll be done with the film. Back to Falling Down, there is a scene in Falling Down that hints at the idea of patriotism, okay, and it's the scene where he's in the army surplus shop, and that's where he gets the like bazooka thing, the heat-seeking missile that ends up in the scene that blows the dam. Okay, so this is really interesting because in that scene the Nazi dude kind of says, we are the same. Okay, and it's interesting the colors with these two teams being pretty much the same, and the 5-pointed star got a darker blue and red, and the blue and red. So absolutely fascinating with that scene that essentially gives them the instrument to destroy the dam in falling down. So I'm thinking, that is, and it's very, Michael Douglas gives the old spiel about being American, so it's really interesting. And then, of course, the Broncos, they had the train reference with Coors Light, the Silver Bullet train, and the interesting thing about Denver as well is this connection to the Colorado, and that is a huge connection to the Hoover Dam, because of course the Colorado River is what fills up Lake Mead behind the Hoover Dam, yeah. So it's a very important reference. Again, so they've got the golden reference with Coors. Again, that's in a little suburb there of Denver called Golden. The bullet train. I mean, there's just so many links with Denver, and all of the carousel references that we've had, the Year of the Horse, all this stuff. I mean, it's loaded for Denver. And we also had a whole bunch of decodes in the summer to do with Denver as well, and Back to the Future, and to do with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning as well. Buffalo, again, they use the train horn. Again, another ramming type instrument, just as the bull here is a ramming instrument as well, and the ram's a ramming instrument. Okay. So lots of train references and lots of DeLorean references. And actually, before I forget, we did do some stuff on Buffalo a long time ago, like a few years ago, to do with Back to the Future in Buffalo, I think. And there were some interesting buildings in Buffalo to do with Back to the Future. But for the life of me, I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. It might have been something to do with Statler. I'm not 100%. Anyway, doesn't matter for right now. I'm going to call it a night. Hopefully that you got something interesting out there, but it really is, scores are popping up with that number jump with Erica Kirk, that number with Charlie Kirk, which I've been meaning to put in a video for a while now, but I just really didn't have anything to put with it, Well, this fits in very nicely with Michael Douglas out on this day with the 81110. And this other one here with the Texans through to the Super Bowl, with that number being 1188 prime. That is super duper interesting. Anyway, we're going to leave it there, and then of course the whole thing with the clock tower in here, and that's it there. It's Mickey, yeah. That's why that Michael name is super duper important. Okay, Mickey Mouse. Okay, Mickey Mouse's birthday, and that is the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse right there. Yeah, I'm leaving it there. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on another one soon. I don't know, next weekend. Who knows what's going to happen with these games now? I have not really got a clue. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye.